Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted to be introducing our very special guest for today, Dr. Pankaj Vij, and he's here to talk to us about his new book, Turbo-Metabolism. Dr. Pankaj is a doctor of internal medicine, and he has helped thousands of patients lose weight, manage chronic health conditions, and improve their physical fitness. He's board certified in internal medicine and obesity medicine, and Dr. Pankaj has been practicing medicine since 1997. So let's welcome to the show Dr. Pankaj.
Thank you, Marianne. Very happy to be here.
It is such a pleasure to have you here, and what a profound book. I can easily see why your book is just flying off the shelves. I mean, my goodness, it's really looking at our metabolism in kind of a different way.
Yes, I'm very, very excited to be able to present this, and I hope that it can help as many people that it can reach. And it's really been quite an amazing journey for me writing the book, and I learned so much myself. So very, very excited today. Thank you.
Yes. Well, and so how did you become interested in this topic?
Well, I'm an internal medicine doctor, and I've been practicing for the last 20 years or so, and the majority of the illnesses that we help people with are related to disturbed or impaired metabolism. Day in and day out, doctors' offices are flooded with people with type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart problems, obesity, and overweight, and people are just not having a good quality of life. They don't have the energy to enjoy the life to the fullest as they deserve. And I got to realizing that until we address the root cause of the problem, all we're doing is providing a Band-Aid solution. We're just treating the symptoms. And as I delved a little bit deeper and started learning about the root causes, I found that the results were just astonishing, with people losing just a little bit of weight, especially where it matters in the midsection and the belly region. Their diabetes started to melt away, the high blood pressure started to get better. They're looking better, they're feeling better, they have more energy. And really that's the goal, right? We work so hard, we are successful in our careers, we can make lots of money and have lots of friends and fans. But if we don't feel good from the inside out and have the energy to then enjoy ourselves, what's the point, right? Mm-hmm. And so this book is really my effort to bring all of that I learned in working with these thousands of people and sort of present the pearls of wisdom so that are available in a quick, easy-to-read, practical, no-nonsense guide that someone can read and start to make a difference in their own life right away.
Well, and with the beginning of the year just coming, and we've just gone through, January, a lot of times people make New Year's resolutions and they want to be healthier, but sometimes they're not quite sure to do that, and it kind of fizzles out by now. Your book is here at the perfect time because it helps people to kind of relook at how they're really treating their metabolism as a whole.
It would be my hope that it serves as a guide for someone to really change their life, because it's about lifestyle. Diets die down, diets die, and they're short-lived. This is not about going on a crash course or a crash diet that will help you lose a certain amount of weight in 21 days and gain it right back. It's really about changing how you look at the entire world around you and make better choices. Make those choices that will serve you well, that will help you to be the best version of yourself so you can achieve everything that you're here to achieve and enjoy your life to the fullest. And that's not something that's seasonal. That's something that we should all be thinking about every single breathing minute, every moment of our lives.
Well, you would definitely know this, since you are, basically the doctor on the front lines when it comes to dealing with people with metabolism issues. So you've seen it, like how you were saying, time and time again, and it's so great to have a book like this that we're able to take and then implement in our own daily lives. In your book, you talk about metabolism as a syndrome. How is that a thing?
So we talk about metabolic syndrome, and in fact, that's one of the chapters in the book. And metabolic syndrome is a condition of impaired energy flow. So, people think about metabolism in different ways, but essentially all it is energy delivery. That's metabolism. The process of taking fuel and converting it into energy that does work. That is metabolism. So when you take your car to the gas station and you put gas in the tank, and somehow that gasoline is magically converted to you zipping up the freeway at 65 miles an hour, getting where you need to be on time, that's metabolism. And in our body, metabolism is similarly the process of taking food and converting it into energy that will allow our vital processes, our organs to work the way they're supposed to. So then metabolic syndrome is a condition of impaired energy flow, right? It's a condition in which that energy isn't being converted properly or most efficiently or effectively from food to output. And it's caused by a cluster of risk factors, at the core of which is excess belly fat or extra fat around the vital organs, around the liver and the pancreas to be exact. And when this excess belly fat or fat around the waistline combines with other risk factors like increased blood pressure, high blood sugar, abnormal cholesterol or triglyceride levels, that's when we have a lethal combination that causes an increase in risk of heart disease, stroke, and diabetes. So essentially it's about impaired energy flow. That's what a metabolic syndrome is, to simplify it to just a few words.
And so you brought up, diabetes and high blood pressure, and are these some of the things that are caused by it?
These are all the things that will be caused when somebody has impaired energy flow. Absolutely. They will have high blood pressure because this fat is being deposited in the blood vessels, making them harder and thicker. Instead of energy being utilized for us to run faster or think faster, that energy is being stored as fat in the blood vessels, causing them to harden, and that will cause high blood pressure. When that fat is being deposited in the muscle cells, in the liver cells, in the pancreas, that causes impairment in the way your body processes sugar, which is essentially translated into type 2 diabetes, which is the majority of diabetes that we see right now, even in children, is type 2 diabetes. This translates into blockages in the arteries that will cause a heart attack or a stroke. So all of the massive healthcare expenditure that we have right now, all the things that doctors' offices and hospitals are being flooded with right now are essentially impairments of metabolism that are caused by poor lifestyle choices.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because, you do talk about getting to the root cause of what is, creating some of these chronic diseases, and you really have it, kind of boiled down to what that is.
Yeah, it's so simple. It's like the answer is right under your nose and you're not even seeing it, or somehow we're choosing to ignore it, or we are being pre-programmed and marketing is presenting it itself in such a way that we're ignoring the obvious causes which are right under our nose. These metabolic diseases are a byproduct of our unhealthy lifestyle, and they can be reversed by creating the conditions in which humans have been thriving for thousands of years. So if you have, an elephant that you're trying to keep healthy and strong in the zoo, you keep it in the conditions that it's designed to be kept in, right? You give it the right elephant food, you keep it in the right sort of foliage and environment, and your elephant will live longer. Similarly, humans have been thriving for thousands of years eating a nutrient-dense, plant-rich diet of unprocessed food, of staying physically active, of walking all day, moving around, lifting heavy objects, climbing over obstacles, climbing up trees, having strong, meaningful social connections with one another, living in communities that are closely knit, and making quiet time to de-stress and making sleep a priority. They would be forced to sleep because the lights would go out. And look at the conditions in which we live in now. We're eating processed food, junk food, because it's convenient. We're not physically active because we have all our technology and devices that are designed to essentially make us more sedentary, make us lazy. Mm-hmm. We don't really have a lot of meaningful social connections. We're socially isolated, even though you might have a lot of friends on Facebook or social media. If you ask someone if they can really have, somebody to count on if they were in a crisis in the middle of the night, they got, sent to jail for a DUI? Can they call someone to pay their bail? And a lot of people would say no, they don't even have a single person with which they can discuss things that they can talk about without feeling judged or ashamed. And we don't make quiet time to de-stress because we fill every moment of our time with busyness, essentially, and sleep is not a priority because we have the music blaring and bright lights from our computer screens and mobile devices and television that are just blasting nonsense messages to us. So we're essentially being fed a poisonous diet of poisonous food, poisonous messaging, and the poisonous environment, and the results are in front of us.
I love how you bring all that together, because a lot of times when people look at their health, they don't look at environment, again, the lack of sleep. They might just focus on the food and the exercise, but they don't take account everything that's going on in their lives.
Yeah, everybody knows that they should be eating more vegetables and walking more at some level, but it's that emotional resilience, the wherewithal to make those right choices, to create an environment that makes the right choices automatic. That doesn't come automatically unless you set it up such. And that's where the emotional resilience and the social connections of support and quiet time to de-stress and having good quality sleep becomes a priority. We can all think of examples of times when we're doing really well and then something stressful happens where we get stressed out or we're not sleeping and all of a sudden everything falls apart. I see this all the time in people that are trying to quit smoking or some other toxic habit, and oftentimes a stumbling block will be a time of stress when they weren't getting enough sleep or something happened in their relationships, and all of a sudden they're resorting back to this destructive behavior, self-destructive behavior, as a way to break free from their social isolation and anxiety.
Well, and is that what you mean? Because I know in your book you talk about it really offers this holistic approach to healing from diabetes and heart disease and other sorts of chronic diseases. And is that part of the connection between the mind, body, soul, and spirit that you kind of dive into?
It is so connected, right? You cannot heal the physical body without first healing the mind. In fact, you can't do anything until you make your mind up that that's what you want to do, and that's where the soul and spirit come in, because behavior will follow cognition. Once I emotionally buy into something and that's what I want to do, I will automatically behave in a way that action will come. And that's the connection between the mind and body. They're intimately connected. So really the battle cannot be won without winning over the mind first.
Yeah. And then kind of moving forward from there. Well, and I know that you've also talked about, and this is probably a good time to talk about, habits, because when we're making these life changes, we need to develop new habits. Is it really hard to do that, to develop a new habit?
It is hard, right? Changing behavior is one of the hardest things that any of us could be asked to do. But there are hacks that you can use to break habits, and we all do those things too. We, for example, set things up in such a way that you will automatically make a choice of whatever you want the choice to be. So it's, in other words, setting up the defaults so that the right choice becomes the automatic choice. And again, we do this in our workplace all the time. We keep our keys and our wallet and our cell phone in a certain location. You park in the same or similar place every day. You keep your shoes in a certain place because that's automating the process when you are looking for those things the next time. But it's about having that emotional buy-in and then setting up the environment to make the right choice, the automatic choice. But changing habits isn't easy. It's very difficult, and it takes time. But one must be patient with oneself and take the time to let the new habit, the healthy habit, become the automatic default choice.
Now, when you say habits take time, is it like 30 or 60 days or longer than that typically?
It's, a lot of people talk about 21 days, and I think that's an underestimate. It really takes at least 2 months to ingrain a new habit. And it's like anything else, it's repetition. If you've ever learned to play a musical instrument, or learning to ride the bicycle for the first time, or tying your shoelaces for the first time, or learning a new language, it takes time and it takes repetition. And I would say at least 60 days of doing things the new way, which means until that happens automatically, you have to deliberately set things up so that you make that choice. And it takes a lot of work and some willpower when that habit is being ingrained. But once it becomes the automatic default choice, once that habit is ingrained, then it becomes much more effortless, and it's not a matter of willpower at all at that point.
Well, and I love how you've incorporated the mind, body, spirit aspect to this, again, because the whole thing is like as we're making choices and changing habits, if we're eating something sweet because it affects our mind in a certain way and it makes us feel good, it gives us those endorphins and we feel good for that brief moment that we are having that, but at the end we kind of are not feeling so good about that. The habit, being able to come back and say, gosh, I'm not going to do this today, and just little by little start chipping away at having that good habit, I think it makes people feel a little bit better that they're not thinking this will happen just overnight.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about being patient with yourself and being kind to yourself. And all of this is about, having love and respect for yourself. And these choices, these habits didn't get ingrained overnight, right? We weren't born a certain way. We learned that sugar tastes a certain way, or certain junk food that you really love. There was a time when you had never tasted that and you had it for the very first time, right? So similarly, if habits can be built, they can be sort of dismantled and rebuilt as well. But it does start at the level of the mind, body, soul, and spirit, because lifestyle choices are made at that level. So that healing also must start at that much higher upstream level than what we just see in the physical realm. And these choices, again, are about emotional resilience, about mental well-being, about meaningful social connections, and about support, having loved ones, having trusted friends that we can talk to. Because, let's face it, we are imperfect beings, and, this temptation is normal, and it's okay to fall off the wagon, and you jump right back on. And that's the level of patience and kindness that it takes to really make long-term meaningful change.
You put it in such a gentle way that I feel like that, people that pick up your book, Turbo-Metabolism, will be able to really treat themselves with a greater sense of kindness as they're making this approach, in making life shifts and changes.
It is. I mean, we need to meet people wherever they are. We start with whatever we have, and nobody's perfect. You talk to the most accomplished athletes, musicians, actors, whoever you want to think about, and it's all about repetitive practice and failing and getting up and failing and getting up and failing and getting up. As long as the last thing that you do is get up, you won, right? So you could fail 99 times, but if you got up 100 times, guess what? You're ahead. And that's what it takes. It's not easy. Nobody said it was going to be easy. But you didn't get sick overnight. You're not going to be healthy overnight. But if you put your mind to it, you can absolutely take your health back. You have the power. You're empowered to do that. You don't need you don't need a prescription medicine. You don't need a surgery. You don't need a procedure necessarily every time. The power is within each and every one of us to help heal. And we have billions of cells in our body that are on our team that want to work with us.
Well, and this kind of brings me to my next question. In your book, you talk about how the American diet's this modern-day equivalent to like the Trojan horse. What do you mean by that, and what can we do to make some changes?
Well, you think about our standard diet, and really this is a diet that's now being exported to the rest of the world as well. This could have been a diet that was designed, by a terrorist organization. You look at a diet that's in excess of refined sugar, unhealthy fat, animal protein, along with thousands and thousands of synthetic chemicals that are being added to, not to make us healthy and strong, but to enhance taste, texture, or shelf life, right? So they're being put there to make them taste good so they can sell more of these products without any attention to the health effects that this may have. And, this could have been a diet that's designed by a terrorist organization that's motivated to wipe us out because, look around. Guess what? 60% of the population is overweight or obese. They don't have energy to do the things that they want. We're not even being able to recruit enough healthy, strong people to fight in the military. This is a national crisis. This is a huge crisis that everybody should be worried about, and we should be making some real changes to fix it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that coupled with, and you talked about this earlier as well, is just our environment, how connected people are with their mobile devices, their computers, just all this outside chatter that kind of gets them away from doing exercise or being outside and just being outdoors.
And these devices and these applications are basically designed to pull us back in. We're constantly getting notifications and dings and pings on our devices that are pulling us in, and they're just like the junk food. They're designed to get people addicted and to make it very difficult to get away. So again, if you were thinking about it from sort of a conspiracy theory standpoint, it seems like a perfect setup to make people unhealthy and weak and incapable of taking care of themselves.
Well, and so let's talk about some of the things. I mean, we've been kind of chatting about some of the stuff we put into our bodies, and we've talked about that. How about water? How does water play a part in all of this?
Water plays a huge part, Marianne, and we don't realize this, but the majority of us are dehydrated all the time. And I talk to people about drinking more water, and they say, "Oh, I don't like the taste of water." And my question would be, learning the taste of anything else other than water was a learned behavior that you picked up. You didn't know the taste of anything else other than water, or maybe mother's breast milk very soon after you were born. Mm-hmm. So we're walking around dehydrated, and therefore we might mistake that thirst for hunger, right? You were actually thirsty, but you don't have the ability to know the difference, and instead you end up putting some junk food in your mouth. So I always tell everybody that the goal, unless you have some medical reason not to, you should be drinking half your body weight in ounces of water. So if you weigh 200 pounds, your goal should be 100 ounces of water. Also, having a tall glass of water before grabbing a snack is an effective way to mindfully gauge hunger, because, again, we can misinterpret this thirst as hunger. And so taking care of the thirst first is a really good idea. One practical place where I use this all the time is if I'm at a buffet, in the middle of the meal, I'll go get up and have a big glass of water before I continue to eat in that buffet, because I've made the mistake of continuing to eat all I can and then realize I didn't even drink any water, and then you have a little bit of water and now you're super bloated and realize that you had overeaten. So having a big glass of water somewhere in the middle of the meal can also provide a good hunger gauge as well, because it'll help distend the stomach a little bit. But when we drink enough water, the body flows a lot better. All the cellular reactions in the body, the biochemical reactions, are happening in the medium of water. You can think more clearly. You can be more physically active. There's less risk of injuries and falls when you're well hydrated. Your excretory system works well. You're urinating. You're cleansing your bowels. The body needs water to really maintain itself in a good state of balance and homeostasis.
I have some friends that will say, I get water in my coffee, so I'm good, or in my tea. And, is that different than having just water by itself?
It is a little bit different. I mean, they're right in the sense that all the water counts. If you're having some water in your coffee or your tea or a cucumber, that all counts. but they should also realize that coffee is a diuretic, right? After you drink coffee, often you'll have to go to the bathroom. So if you're starting off the day in a water deficit from the insensible water losses through sweating and evaporation through the course of the night, and you get up and you have a big glass of tall venti coffee with lots of caffeine, that's going to further you into a state of dehydration. So my recommendation to my friend would be, that's fine, but have a big glass of water first when you get up. Brush your teeth, have a big glass of water, and now you can have your coffee or tea, which is delicious, and that's perfectly fine. But you don't want to go further into a water deficit if you're already starting in a deficit when you first wake up in the morning.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense, because especially if we're we're 70% water, as I think is what some of the studies I've heard have said. So, we do need to replenish that. In your book, you talk about chakras, which was a big surprise. Why did, and I was happy to see it. So how did that become a part of your book?
And that was a bit of a bold jump for me, too, as being a Western doctor.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been thinking about this a lot, and we've talked about metabolism as energy flow. And the chakra system was initially described as circles of energy, right? And so I thought, this is interesting. There's energy flow within the body, and even though this system is an abstract, probably an abstract description of something that we can't physically see, but if you think about it, it actually correlates really well with Western science as well. We look at Abraham Maslow talking about the hierarchy of needs, and our most basic needs are of safety and security, and that actually correlates with the base chakras. And then when you get to the middle chakras, the heart chakras are about connection, and that actually correlates really well with Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And you look at the highest needs that we have as human beings when our basic needs of safety and security and connection with others are met. Abraham Maslow talks about the need for self-actualization or achieving your highest potential, and I could correlate that with connecting with something that's higher than ourselves, and that's what the crown chakra is all about. It's about connecting with some higher supreme power and being. And so I thought, wow, this is really an interesting correlation that, 8,000 or so years ago, this energy system was described that nobody can really physically see if you dissect the body, but the abstraction makes so much sense in that when our base needs are met, that's when we evolve towards meeting our higher needs of connecting with others and eventually achieving our highest potential in ourselves. And when those needs are not being met, we might degrade all the way down to the basic needs again. So if my need for social recognition or connection with others isn't being met and I'm feeling sad and depressed, I digress all the way down to my basic needs of hunger, thirst, and sex. So I'm misinterpreting that hunger of connecting with someone higher, something higher than myself, as thirst. So instead of finding intimacy and making a good friend, instead I end up finding myself at the fast food place, eating a huge hamburger, and that doesn't serve me well. So the energy flow system sort of described 8,000 years ago works in parallel with what we're talking about here in metabolism. And then the more I think about it, the more I can see the connections, and I'm really working on, perhaps for my next book, I'm going to focus on this area a lot more.
Oh, I cannot wait to hear more about that, because I find using our energy sources that we have in the chakras to be able to, just facilitate healing in other areas, it does all correlate. And it's interesting how it all one affects the other.
Indeed.
Well, and so when you talk about chakras, we talked about just how that correlates with all the different other the body functions and different parts of the needs. So how does that work with our metabolism?
Well, like I said, metabolism is about energy flow, and chakras are also about energy flow.
Okay.
And when our needs aren't being met at the level of the higher chakras, we sort of revert back to the much lower needs of hunger, thirst, and need to have sex, for example. These are very basic primal urges for survival. And when our higher needs are not met, we go down to these more basic needs of safety and security. Mm-hmm. So it's more of an abstract parallel. There isn't a direct parallel between chakras and metabolism. It's more that we make unhealthy lifestyle choices when our needs aren't being met, and being aware of this can help us. Right? What I really need is somebody to talk to and connect with, that need is not going to be met by, drinking a milkshake. So just mindfully understanding where my energy needs are and satisfying those needs are going to help my body stay in a much better balance.
Well, sometimes you've got to explain it to me twice, but I got it that time.
Well, it's confusing, and it's not very obvious, so it takes a little bit of abstraction.
Well, but it makes sense when you explain it that way, and I love how you have the two of them. These two different. We've got the chakras, we've got our metabolism and different body functions, and all working together that equal the whole person. So what if when our chakras get out of balance, is there like a key to aligning them?
The key to aligning them is awareness. Just like it is for any of this stuff, it's about being really, really aware of what's going on, which takes love and attention and kindness to oneself and the ability to tune in to really know what's going on. Because, like you said, there's so much background noise, there's so much distraction that it would take turning off the noise and really tuning into what's going on inside to figure out what we really need and what's keeping us from making the right choices, which we know what the right choices are, but we're not making the right choices because something is throwing us off in the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. So all that it takes is awareness. It takes, being quiet with oneself, being introspective, being kind and compassionate to oneself, and figuring out what's going on. Is this true hunger, or is this a craving that I'm having for chocolate right now because I'm feeling ignored, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling rejected, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling lonely. There's something else, some other need that I have, and I'm filling it with chocolate or ice cream or a milkshake or, a cheeseburger or whatever it is. And so it's that awareness. And once we figure out what we really need and want, and we give the body the right fuel, the right conditions, it wants to work with us. It wants to heal itself. All we need to do is get out of the way. Stop doing the things that are keeping us unhealthy, and the default setting is going to be one of harmony and balance and health and well-being. And that's something that we can all achieve regardless of how old we might be, what state of health we might be in, or whatever we consider our adverse conditions to be. We have the power to heal ourselves.
That's just phenomenal. And it provides great hope for a lot of people who think, gosh, well, I'm too sick. This is good for other people, but not for me. They can pick up your book and start to make changes, some positive changes today.
It does. I think there's hope for everyone. And in fact, the people that are more out of shape get faster results too, right? The worse off you are, the more quickly you're going to see improvement. If I'm already 90% of the way there, now that is a much more steep part of the curve. But the people that are in really bad shape can notice a difference much more quickly. Just like, if your car is really, really dirty, you can just clean it a little bit and you can really notice a difference.
Yeah. Well, I understand that you have an acronym that really helps people to learn new skills.
Yeah, that's actually not my invention. That was from my friend who's a learning coach. His name is Jim Quick, and he introduced me to the acronym FAST. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, it's his acronym for learning new skills, and to learn them fast, he says for the F is to forget what you think you know and start with a fresh slate. And in Buddhist philosophy, they talk about it as emptying your cup. If I'm trying to fill tea in your cup and it's already full, then I can't really give you a lot of tea. So you need to empty your cup first. So forget what you know, right? Drop your assumptions of what you think the truth might be and start with a fresh slate. That's the F. The A is active learning. So when we make learning interactive and participatory, when we have people participate in their own learning and it's active and interactive, that they're going to learn a lot faster. And I find that when I'm talking to patients or groups of people, when we make it interactive, when we make it conversational with them, they pick up the concepts a lot faster. So that's the A. The F is for forget. A is for active. S is for state. We need to be in the right state of mind, right? We need to be calm and relaxed and open. We need to have our basic needs met, going back to the chakras or Maslow's hierarchy. We need to have gotten something to eat. We need to have taken care of our thirst, our other biological needs, having a good night's sleep, and you're in a good state of mind that is calm and relaxed and open to learn. So that's the S, is state. And then the T is to teach. When we teach somebody back what we learned, we can own the knowledge the best. Because when you have to teach somebody else, you really need to go over everything 10 times to make sure that you understand it, and ask yourselves all the questions that you think you might be asked by the person that you're teaching it. So the fastest way to learn something is to teach it back. So that makes FAST. Forget what you think you know, active learning, state, the right state of mind, and teach is to teach back what you just learned. And this is from my friend Jim Quick, who's a learning coach, and he's really good.
He is good. That's a good acronym, and I can see a lot of people would implement this. And the thing that I like about the T portion of that, it starts to help people develop community, because if you're teaching somebody else, you're not just at home, answering tweets or something, or connecting with people over email. You actually are physically, usually in that person's presence, and you guys are working together.
Absolutely. And as doctors, I think we need to be role models, or anybody that's in the healing profession needs to be a role model to be able to really get somebody else to be motivated to change. We need to learn and own the knowledge and walk the talk ourselves. We need to really understand what it is that we're trying to get the other person to do, and what other better way to do that is than to role model it for yourself. Here, I'm doing this. I can show you how I do it. Look at how I do it. Now, please do it with me. So learning and owning the knowledge also means being a good role model for it. So then you can teach it to someone else, and that someone else will be a role model and a coach to the next person, and we can spread the message of health and wellness and vitality and have a thriving universe where people help each other and take care of each other, and everybody lives in peace and harmony.
Well, wouldn't that be fabulous? Have more energy, live in peace and harmony, be better connected with the people that we're around, and just overall that optimal health, mind, body, spirit, the entire thing that encompasses us.
Well, I think it is connected, and you think about people that are, rude to someone else, or having road rage, or, being unkind, are probably not in a state of turbo-metabolism. They're probably having some sort of impairment or some pain or some suffering of their own, and that's what they're manifesting to others. So if we can all be in a state of having good energy and feeling good inside of ourselves, we're more likely to be kind to everybody that we meet, and we will have a more calm and peaceful world, in my opinion.
I think you're right, Doctor. I would agree with you on that. Well, and so this kind of brings me to the next question. We're kind of just moving to a different topic here. But, I mean, I know in your book you talk about lean muscle mass and how important that is. Why don't you share a little bit about that with us?
That is one of the most critical components of metabolism. And in fact, lean muscle mass is the single most important component of metabolism that is within our control. So when you look at the energy that you or I burn in a 24-hour period, that is what we call the resting metabolic rate or the basal metabolic rate. That is the total daily energy expenditure in a 24-hour period. So if you or I were to be in a coma, in a hospital, or confined to a very small space where we didn't have a lot of movement, or you were, in a hospital bed, there is something going on in the body called the resting metabolic rate, which essentially is the energy required just to keep alive. And believe it or not, 70% of your total daily energy expenditure is made up of the resting metabolic rate. So 70% of the total energy that you burn in a 24-hour period, you would continue to burn even if you were in a coma. Why might that be? It's because there are vital organs, there are vital processes that are going on just to keep us alive. The vital organs are the brain, the heart, the liver, the kidneys, and our good friend, skeletal muscle. These 5 vital organs are busy at work even when we're asleep, even when we're in a coma, even when we're tied up to a bed or confined to a jail cell. These vital organs are still at work. And think about this one more time. I said brain, heart, kidneys, liver, and skeletal muscle. So out of these 5, it's only the skeletal muscle that you can modify a little bit. You can't really make your brain bigger. You can't really make your heart burn more energy. You can't really make your kidneys or your liver work harder. But the muscle you can influence. This is why weight resistance training is so important for turbo-metabolism. And resistance training is the most critical and neglected component of exercise. And everybody goes to the gym and they'll walk on the treadmill and they say, oh, I burned this many calories, I walked for a mile on the treadmill or ran. But it's this lean muscle mass, it's the single most important component of metabolism, which we can influence. People with more lean muscle have turbo-metabolism. People with more lean muscle have better posture, they're less likely to fall, they'll live longer, they'll look better. But most importantly, they'll burn more fat. Even at rest, they're burning more energy because this lean muscle, the skeletal muscle that they have, has an energy need, and that is burning energy even when they're at rest or asleep or in a coma. So people with more lean muscle mass can actually give in to temptation a little bit more, and they can eat off plan occasionally because they'll still burn it off. So lean muscle mass is absolutely the single most important component of metabolism that is within our control, and this is why resistance training is so important. It's so important. And this doesn't have to be in a gym with heavy weights. It can be with your own body weight. It can be doing things like push-ups and pull-ups and squats and lunges and planks, which are, by the way, the 5 most important exercises that everybody should be doing, that can all be done with body weight. And this can help us, if not build more lean muscle, at least preserve the lean muscle that we have. Because the more lean muscle we have, the closer we get to having turbo-metabolism.
So when people are working out and doing exercises, what are some of the biggest errors that they make?
So the biggest errors have to do with really not having consistency in exercise and keeping the body challenged. So I would say the top 3 exercise errors are, 1, not committing to a time and place to make it happen every day. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people, you only have to exercise on the days that you eat, which means you got to do something every day. That would be the number 1 error. Number 2 would be not adjusting the frequency and intensity to stay progressively challenged. Because, as you probably already know, the body is really smart, and we figure out ways to do things very easily, the things that we do repeatedly when we do the same task over and over again. So the trick is to keep adjusting the frequency and intensity and timing so that there's some challenge, something novel about the work, the physical work that we're doing, to force the muscles to have to grow and develop, and to force that neuromuscular, the nerve to muscle coordination to continually improve and evolve. And the number 3 biggest error would be what we just talked about, that is missing out on resistance exercise. So number 1, commit to a time and place. Number 2, adjust the timing and frequency to make it continuously challenging. And 3, resistance exercise. These are the top 3 errors that people make when designing an exercise program.
Well, and, I get that because, it's interesting when you go to the gym, if you do the same thing over and over and over again, what happens is it's like you don't lose any weight. Nothing happens. Your body's just kind of going through the motions. Too.
Absolutely. You don't lose weight, and it also gets boring if you keep doing the same thing over and over again. But you look at all the best trainers in the gym, and you'll see that they're constantly researching and learning new exercises so that they can show their clients. And a good trainer is one that has, an infinite variety of exercises at their disposal so that they can keep it challenging and keep things novel and keep it moving so that we're constantly improving. Because when we stop doing new things and challenging ourselves, we stop growing and improving, we stagnate.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Well, and so I think I've got time for one more question here. I believe so. So, it's interesting because there's a lot of talk about stress in the body. And I know you talk about it in your book as well, and just some of the effects it has on us. Can you share some of that with our listeners?
I sure can, yeah. I mean, stress is probably critically important, and emotional resilience is about having ways to manage that stress. So unrelenting and unmanaged stress keeps us in a fight or flight mode, making it difficult to move into rest and digest or growth mode, right? And it's really hard to make life-changing decisions and maintain healthy habits when we're constantly in this state of feeling overwhelmed. So stress is about feeling overwhelmed and not having the resources to cope with whatever challenges are presented to be in front of us. On a biological level, unmanaged stress causes excess of stress hormones like cortisol and also creates high levels of insulin, which makes us even more hungry. Even though we have stored fat, it makes us crave more fatty and sugary foods, and thus contributing even more to weight gain. So stress is just not good for someone that's trying to make lifestyle change because it weakens your willpower instinct. It has, on a biological level, it's not good for us, and it's just not something that we can sustain. And we're not designed to be, having unrelenting and unmanaged stress. We're designed to be having short bursts of danger, such as a zebra being confronted by a cheetah that's about to eat it. But that stress is quick. You go into the fight or flight response. You run as fast as you can. Either you're able to escape and find some lunch, or you just became lunch for the cheetah. But either way, it's 5 or 10 minutes, and then all the body functions return back to normal. We're not designed to be constantly stressed by email and work pressure or unhealthy home situation, and so it's really key to identify those problems and address them. And they're rampant. We all have that, and we need to figure out our own ways to de-stress, whether that's having social outlets, whether it's getting outdoors, whether it's having a hobby that helps you sort of de-stress and detach from the unpleasant situation. For a lot of people, it's actually physical exercise or music or humor. But whatever it is, we need to have those outlets and that optimism so that we can stay in a state of balance and be emotionally resilient to make the right choice, the automatic choice.
Yeah. It does seem like most people are running around with a feeling like they've got a pack of wolves behind them, and it's really, when we look at the stressors in our life and we're able to make adjustments, and your book outlines this beautifully, we can have such a healthy experience.
We sure can, and again, it's within our control, it's within our reach. It's just a matter of having the right mindset and making the choice. And when we align what our thoughts are, our intentions with our words and our actions, when all those three align, the results are simply automatic.
Mm-hmm. Think there. Well, Dr. Pankaj, where can people connect with you and learn more about your book, Turbo-Metabolism, and also be part of your community?
So my URL is drvij.com. Pankaj is my first name. My last name is Vij, so it's just www.doctorvij.com. That's a website that I'm gradually building, and my book is on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and other fine places where books are sold, and I would love to connect with your listeners.
Yeah, well, I know it's available at all major retailers, and in fact, I have my copy of Turbo-Metabolism and love it. I highly suggest everyone pick up their copy too and learn how you can make major shifts in your life for a new, healthier you. And, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today, Doctor.
Thank you, Marianne. It was truly a pleasure, and all the best to you with your health as well for 2018.
Well, thank you, Dr. Pankaj. It's been such a joy to have you here. I look forward to having you on the show again at a later date so we can dive back into turbo-metabolism. We are at the end of our show today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Thursday, Friday, and Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.